Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, another very important news report to cover. I want you UNC supporters outside there to listen to this. The police lovers especially, which all UNC people are police lovers right now because their party in office. The state has been ordered to pay over $650,000 in, listen to this word, compensation to 6 members of a family who will, listen to this other word, maliciously prosecuted for marijuana, firearm, and ammunition possession. Now, that's very serious charges. After police officers conducted a raid on their home in late 2019. You hear what went on recently when he had it? A raid? Okay, then. In January last year, the Office of the Attorney General accepted liability in the lawsuits brought by Wafiq, Siddiq, Mustafa, Jennifer, Amira Khan, and Kamili Garib Khan over them being prosecuted. But did you hear the word malicious? It shows intent, people. It shows that these vindictive officers basically fabricated evidence or still went ahead with charges even though there was lack of evidence. Does it sound familiar to the Hadid's case? Sounds quite familiar. Over 2 weeks now, and they cannot be charged yet with a crime. These people were charged. So look, the police going from bad to worse now, where they are holding people in custody without even charging them. They probably don't want to take the chance of fabricating any sort of evidence against the Hadids. That's probably why. And the government is using the SOE and the PDO in order to be able to hold these people in custody without charging them. So this is going to be an even bigger case, a bigger scandal in about 5 years to come. This happened in 2019. That was 2026. By the time elections in 2030, somewhere around there, we are going to hear about a multi-million-dollar case. Most likely, I am 90% sure about it, where the Hadids will be winning a multi-million-dollar case against the state. And the police officers won't be held accountable, you know. No, the police officers won't be held accountable. The taxpayers will have to cough up that money. Last Monday, the High Court Master Rishma Ramratan assessed the appropriate compensation to be paid to each of the family members. You know what would have been the best compensation? Hearing the judge say that these officers should be sent to prison along with the DPP, who approved for those individuals to be charged. That is the best kind of compensation possible. Money, yes, money is wonderful. But the best type of compensation would have been to hear that these vindictive police officers were sent to prison for their crimes, because that is a serious crime. Destroyed the reputation and the lives of these individuals. The lawsuit pursued by relatives related to a raid on their home at Orangefield Road, Karipachima on November 8, 2019. The relatives were alerted by their neighbor that a group of men dressed in black and armed with firearms entered their property by scaling a wall. Yeah, that is Kamala's rough men, you know. Kamala's rough men. And you know, the UNC fanatics outside there, oh, Kamala wasn't in office back then. It doesn't matter. Police officers don't change when it is an administration changes, my dear brilliant university UNC supporters outside here. It's the same police officers under both PNM and UNC. But there's one person that glorifying them even more than the PNM, and that is Kamala. She calls them her rough men. Yes, so it is her rough men that perpetrated this crime back then, my dear UNC supporters. Whether she's in opposition or in government, it's still her rough men. She calls them rough men who go out there in the night to protect the citizens. Protect which citizens? Protect the government officials and themselves, because definitely can't be the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. One of the men spoke to the relatives through a locked door and claimed to be a police officer, but did not identify himself with a police identification. Breach of protocol there one time, you know, people. He told them that he would mash up the door unless they opened it. The relatives complied, and the men conducted a search of their property. They allegedly found a box outside the building which contained 2 rounds of ammunition and a quantity of marijuana. In other words, that was planted there, people. Planted there. Amira, Wafiq, and Sadiq were arrested and taken to a police station where they were charged with the offenses. Their 3 relatives were not arrested but were jointly charged, and all 6 appeared in court. A month later, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions issued a notice of discontinuance against all 6 relatives, leading to the criminal proceedings in the magistrate court being discontinued. You had enough sense back then to discontinue it, but you ain't discontinuing the one. But anyhow, you can't even blame the DPP right now because the DPP wasn't even given the opportunity to charge the Hadids yet. So you know what, DPP? Your hands clean for now. Your hands clean for now. I will leave you out of this one. You see with the Kaya Sealy case, DPP, I want to hear what is going to be your excuse in the future when it pertains to the lawsuit that Kaya Sealy and Alyssa Thomas will be filing against the state. Dealing with siblings Wafiq and Sadiq. Apologies if I'm pronouncing your names incorrectly, but I'm assuming that is how it's pronounced. Wafiq and Sadiq Khan. Master Ramratan ordered $60,000 in damages for false imprisonment and $75,000 in damages for malicious prosecution for each of them. Malicious. Malicious, you hear that word? Malice. Yes, that is what Kamala's wonderful rough men do on a regular basis. UNC supporters, all of them balling. Amen, amen. Good job, officers. I wish we had a legitimate, genuine police service here in Trinidad and Tobago. I despise gang culture. I'm saddened by the fact that our country is being devoured, consumed with gangs, criminal gangs, and with weed worship. But I am also disgusted by our police service, which is extremely corrupt and behaves like the most notorious gang here in Trinidad and Tobago. Amira received slightly more compensation based on the treatment she received when she was arrested. So you can imagine the kind of compensation the Hadids will receive, because they're being treated really poorly as well. Although at least the woman is being allowed to go home to bathe and thing, which is nice though. She was granted $90,000 for false imprisonment. You hear that? False imprisonment, all right. And $80,000 for malicious prosecution. I want to see if the courts will allow the state to get away with false imprisonment just because of the state of emergency. I want to see, I'm really waiting to see if the courts will say that this PDO it was lawful and that it was constitutional. I want to see that. I want to see, because I'm really hoping that this constitutional, I think the Hadids have a constitutional case that they're waiting on. I hope this constitutional case will finally determine whether a government can abuse the authority by using an SOE and a PDO to fight crime. Master Ramratan noted that she suffered a panic attack while being detained before being charged, as she noted that police officers misplaced a medication which was supplied by relatives. Misplaced. I don't feel it was misplaced. They willfully did that, I believe. The claimants have provided adequate evidence to prove there were aggravating features in this case regarding the conditions of detention. The claimant was denied medication even though the same was prescribed. She felt she was treated inhumane and her dignity was negatively affected. It's just like how Dominic Hadid is being deprived of proper medical attention right now while he is in prison and he has serious medical conditions. Additionally, her inability to clean herself affected her ability to practice her religion, Master Ramratan said. She also noted that when she initially denied bail and remanded to the Golden Grove State Prison, she was required to strip nude naked in a room full of other women while her body was examined, and the marks on her skin were counted while in front of other people, police. How is that constitutional? How is that right? How is that legal? Eh? You most likely have to strip them whatsoever, but in front of other people? Really? There were strangers that ran their hands through her hair, causing her extreme embarrassment, distressing, and violation of her personal and religious dignity, Master Ramratan said. Now, the thing about it is, if that part of it, the search, is normal procedure, then you can't really think about it from the religious perspective because Christians have to endure it, other people have to endure it, right? But remember, she was falsely imprisoned. That's why it will go, why all this will be part of it. You understand? If she really committed a crime, she wouldn't have gotten compensation for this. But it's because it's the whole thing was a malicious prosecution and false imprisonment. Master Ramratan ordered $75,000 in damages for Mustafa and Jennifer Khan and Garib Khan, who were not arrested or remanded but were also charged. She ordered interest on the compensation awarded and directed the state to pay their legal costs for pursuing the lawsuits. State. Didn't say the officers, didn't say the DPP. Nah, the state. You see what I'm showing you? And this is why police officers will continue to commit these type of offenses, because they don't ever have to compensate these individuals, these victims, from their own bank accounts, from their own pockets, from their own salaries, neither the DPP. So that is why they feel free to continue to do it, because daddy state, mommy state, will pay it on their behalf. My response, sarcastic of course, I said, good job, Kamala's rough men. Yes, UNC hypocrites, I know that this incident occurred under PNM, but your precious queen glorifies these thugs in blue in spite of all the corruption and incompetence within the law enforcement agency. And as I said earlier, it doesn't matter whether she's in government or not. The police officers don't change, and therefore those rough men whom she glorifies were the ones that committed this offense back then. Do you understand that, or do you need me to spoon feed it to you more? It seems as though a lot of you love to be spoon fed. Taxpayers, of course, will gladly, not gladly at all, but I'm saying it in a sarcastic way, pay this hefty bill on behalf of the police gods and DPP. Amen, UNC. I find this all your UNCs supposed to pay this on all your own. I find the court should say, you know what, all the police lovers need to come up with the money and pay it on behalf of the state and leave the rest of us alone. Do you understand that? The TTPS, of course, wins no matter which party is in government, because rest assured, this happened under the PNM, and it's going to happen again under the PNM in 2030 or 2031, whenever the elections is called. It's going to happen. The PNM isn't going to reform the TTPS and stop this abuse of power, because they love it. Because the PNM weaponizes the TTPS as well. It was weaponized under Rowley. It is now being weaponized even greater under Kamala, and it's going to be weaponized under Penny. And who knows? After Penny has seen that Trinidadians are tolerating this and peacefully demanding change, she's going to most likely abuse her authority as well. What we do need is to give somebody else a chance to see if, let's just see, like Michaela Pandey, I've never heard her say it, but I'm hoping at some point in time she might end up saying it, that there's need for significant reform in the TTPS.
Weather report for Trinidad and Tobago on Thursday, July 9, 2026. The weather in Trinidad and Tobago for Thursday, July 9, 2026 will be mostly cloudy and breezy with thunderstorms and occasional showers. High temperatures will reach 28 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius, dropping to a low around 24 degrees Celsius at night. Due to an approaching tropical wave, there is a medium 40% chance of heavy downpours that could trigger street or flash flooding. A mild concentration of Saharan dust will also be present in the atmosphere. The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service warns that gusty winds up to 50 km per hour and localized street or flash flooding may occur during intense downpours. Individuals with respiratory sensitivities or allergies should take necessary health precautions due to the mild haze. Seas are forecast to be moderate, with waves reaching up to 2.5 meters in open waters and becoming choppy around heavier shower activity.
Regional news now. A member of the upper house has joined the ranks of parliamentarians who are currently under investigation for potential illicit enrichment and or submitting false information to Jamaica's principal anti-corruption body. In its annual report, tabled in Parliament yesterday, the Integrity Commission provided data indicating that there are 6 members of Parliament, Lord Father, who are currently under investigation for potential illicit enrichment and or false information, while 1 member of the state is being probed for similar alleged breaches of the Integrity Commission Act. Oh, I really don't want to say whether it is from the opposition side or whether it is from the government side, but that's some serious problems there. We have a lot of corruption here in Trinidad and Tobago too, so who knows? Who knows? If there's a real independent investigation, we might end up hearing similar news reports coming out from here in Trinidad and Tobago. Thus far, I think it even has some controversies when it pertains to Andrew Holness himself, but he is a pretty good prime minister, and I hope all this is cleared up and justice prevails. Of course, justice is served. International news now. Iran attacked 3 commercial shipping vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz, including a Saudi crude oil tanker and a Qatari liquefied natural gas carrier. Those are their allies, people. Qatar loves Iran. Saudi Arabia, not really. But Qatar, that's their ally. And they're attacking them. I'm telling you, the Ayatollah regime, they just don't even like themselves. They could have just play along with Trump's foolishness for a little longer and allowed at least these vessels to pass. No, you want to attack those vessels too. And Trump, of course, he's going to retaliate. Trump declared the U.S. Memorandum of Understanding with Iran officially over on July 8, 2026, following a severe military escalation, which I now mentioned to you there. But Trump is so fickle-minded. He's going to do that now. How many times we've seen him done it in the past? If he does any differently now, well, thank God. But honestly speaking, I don't take him seriously at all anymore. Not even Amr Safati really takes him seriously either. Only Eric Stakelbeck kind of way still fickle-minded. Poor Eric Stakelbeck. Boy, put away American heart and see from a biblical perspective. Your president is under the influence of the Antichrist. No 2 ways about that. President Trump, yes, Eric Stakelbeck. Your president is under the influence of the Antichrist. Speaking to reporters at NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, Trump stated he no longer wishes to negotiate with Iranian leadership, describing them as untrustworthy and violent. Yeah, but you said that in the past, and then 2 days later, you said, these are good guys, these are wonderful people to talk with. And 1 minute you're saying the deal is over, and the next minute we have a next deal. And so you just keep going and going and going. How many times people over here making these type of statements? You're fickle-minded. And I believe intentionally, so I don't think this is an actual problem. He has it. I think he's intentionally doing this. He just loves to play games. He loves to play games. Not to mention, once his friends and stuff like that, like Erdogan tells him, hey, you can't continue that war, you need to stop it, otherwise, you know what? He just humbles himself. This diplomatic breakdown follows a series of intense military actions, beginning with U.S. allegations that Iran attacked commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. In response, U.S. Central Command launched extensive airstrikes against dozens of Iranian military targets, which triggered retaliatory drone and missile strikes from Iran against U.S. military bases in Bahrain and Kuwait. By later, I will know if the war continues or if Trump by now came up with another deal for Iran to sign. From what I've heard, even that the ceasefire is over, but deals continue behind the scenes. I'm telling you, it's just such a nonsense, nonsense. When will Trump realize? I don't believe he will ever, but when will even the Republicans realize? And many of them know you cannot make deals with radical jihadist terrorists. You just can't. It's impossible. These people believe that it's their duty. The Ayatollah, the IRGC, these radical Islamists in Iran believe it is their duty to wage war against the infidels in order to usher in the coming of their Messiah. That is, you're never going to persuade them to stop doing what they do, people. You're not going to. The only way to stop these individuals from committing acts of terrorism is by force. That's the only way.
Bible quote of the day. Psalm 14:1-6. The foolishness and corruption of humanity. This passage, written by King David, addresses the moral decay of people who reject God. It describes how God observes humanity from heaven, noting a widespread failure to do good. The text also highlights the corruption of evildoers who exploit the poor, reminding readers that God ultimately protects and shelters the oppressed. The fool says in his heart, "There is no God." They are corrupt, their deeds are vile, there is no one who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand, any who seek God. Everyone has turned away, all have become corrupt, there is no one who does good, not even one. Do all these evildoers know nothing? They devour my people as though eating bread, they never call on the Lord. But there they are, overwhelmed with dread, for God is present in the company of the righteous. You evildoers frustrate the plans of the poor, but the Lord is their refuge.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.